This video is about a scene at the end of Avengers Endgame. Please check out the movie first. Ready? Good. How did old man Steve Rogers appear at the end on the bench, you may ask? Well, it all started with those Pym particles. Let's rewind the movie a bit and pay close attention to Steve. We all know Peggy Carter was the love of his life, and he's had regrets never getting the chance to be with her. The movie has a cool idea for time travel, something a bit different than other movies, like Back to the Future, for example. In short, whatever changes they do to the past, nothing affects their timeline. However, quite a few people were a bit puzzled by the end scene in Avengers Endgame when Captain America decides to take the stones and Mjolnir back to their respective times. It seemed that he stays there and just grows old, and then they see him again on the bench. So kind of like he's always been there, like we've had two Steve Rogers all this time. But how can that be true if what they do in the past doesn't influence the present? We've seen past Nebula get shot and die, and nothing happened to our Nebula. We've seen past Thanos get destroyed, and nothing changed this timeline. So, how can that be? The answer is shown to us in a scene when Tony and Steve go to the 1970s. There, Steve sneaks into the base and steals not two Pym particles, but four. He uses one for himself and another for Tony to come back to the present with the stones, and he keeps two Pym particles hidden away. He probably gets this idea when he sees Peggy there, as it reignites his love for her. Now, when Hulk sends him back in time to return all the stones and Thor's hammer, he goes a bit further than that. Since he has two left hidden away, we know that he actually goes back in time to the 1940s once his mission is complete. We know this because at the very last scene, when Steve and Peggy kiss, she doesn't have any gray hair like she did in the 1970s. Captain America stays with Peggy until she passes away, which would be around 2014 or the year when the Winter Soldier movie takes place. Now that he's had a full life with her, he decides to return to them and uses the last of the Pym particles to travel back to 2023 and sit on the bench. Another thing to keep in mind is that he probably told his plan to Bucky. And in the movie, we see Steve telling him that he'd miss him right before going to place the stones and the hammer back. So that's how Steve did it, and why he's now an old man. Let me know if there are any other questions you'd like me to answer about Avengers Endgame. Cheers!